Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Applied Meditation course. My name is Lena Gurba, and this is lesson 2. Thank you for joining. Thank you for everybody who is joining live, and also to those who will be listening remotely. It's a wonderful course, and I want to share with you the practice of meditation. It's complicated. It's really complicated. It's like math. You start with, when you go to study math in school, you start with the arithmetics and you study it, and then you migrate and move to math. Then you do algebra 1, algebra 2. Maybe there is geometry, trigonometry. Then you migrate to calculus, and there's 1 and 2. There's higher math. So there's so many dimensions to it. But the tool is vital for our livelihood, for living happily. And I'll explain more and more as we peel the layers. And I want to make this fun and interactive because it could be pretty boring and dry. And it's catered to all audiences. I'm keenly aware that there are some experienced meditators, there are some beginners. This course is intended to be foundational. So I will be giving tidbits that are more advanced, but I'll be also catering to people who are just getting in the know. What really is this meditation? And they might be meditating for years like I was, and maybe at some point getting lost in the tenets. There's so much out there of, there's a lot out there. And I want to thank the 1 million meditator community, the Anita Morrow, a wonderful Anita from Canada. She single-handedly created a platform, a forum where 11,000 people globally join in courses like this and meditations. So I invite you to sign up if you haven't, and go to www.1millionmeditator.com. There is an event coming up in March 27th through 29th, and there's going to be, it's a marathon of meditation morning to night. So let me share my screen, and let's get into what we are about here today, and it's applied meditation. So, oops, I start from the end. And here's the 1 million meditator community. So just to reiterate, come and join us. So this course is based on, and some of you might have seen even the cartoon on the left, Stages of Meditation, very famous drawing, if you've started to look into the meditation. But it's based on the works of an Indian master, Kamala Shila, and he taught and lived in 775 AD. And the Stages of Meditation work was became the foundation of the later schools of meditations in Tibet. And this course is also heavily relies upon the presentation of the system that was given later by Jetson Kappa in his major work on the Steps of the Path. So this, the reason it's so heavily reliant on the Indian and Tibetan teachings, because India is the birthplace of meditation, and Tibet, once Buddhism migrated from India to other countries out east, Tibet became the most safest cradle and haven for masters and students of mind and conscious for 1,000 years. They had peace, no war, where they could study the mind. I think there was a project a couple of years ago when groups of scientists of all walks assembled to study consciousness, mind, and they very quickly spent roughly 17 billion and didn't even scratch the surface. So the Tibetans had the luxury of do that in the privacy of their own caves out in the Himalayas for 1,000 years. And they became very proficient in it. And not only did they just study, they passed the knowledge, they documented it. But if not for the invasion of Tibet by China, we probably out in the West would not have enjoyed this wisdom. So there's always a silver lining in everything that might on the surface appear as negative. So last time we talked about the benefits of the meditation, and I wanted to excite you to continue. We talked about 9 primary benefits, and I have them on the slide in front of you. So it's an increased ability to focus. It's an improved decision making. So the reason it's so good in applied, meaning in real life, because you don't need to go to the cave in Tibet or join the monastery. Applied means in everyday work, in daily, at home and at work. You get greater harmony in any relationships. It helps with stress resilience. You can uncork your ability to predict the future. You can realize the dimensions of reality and the potentiality, pure potentiality of it. It helps you deal with negative emotions and irradiate them for good, forever. It opens you more for greater service responsibility because you see we're all in this together, and you become a softer heart. And we all walk with very closed hearts, so it's very hard to open them. And meditation helps you. So I like to understand the origins, and as I started this class, I talked about how math becomes complicated over time. So meditation, you can explain it in a single term, and I will tell you what authentic meditation is and how to make any meditation an authentic meditation. But it helps to understand the flavors of it, because you hear all of these words, and I list 6 most commonly used terms to explain what meditation is and to call it. Some are techniques. You have teachers who teach a very specific technique. So each of these words are like synonyms. They give a flavor of what meditation is, so you understand the depths of it. And Michael Roach, the teacher, he talked about 16 flavors of snow, describing the white snow that Eskimos have. Well, in Sanskrit and Tibet, they professed it, and there's probably as many words to describe meditation as well. What I want to tell you, this is not a religious teaching by no means. And I grew up in the Eastern Orthodox tradition, Eastern European Christian tradition. So it's Christianity. And I'm very, I'm very loyal to that tradition. I respect it a lot. This is not about religion. This is religion agnostic. This is about your conscious and your mind. And initially, I was very hesitant to look into the Sanskrit words. There's a lot of those terms in yoga because that's how they originated. A lot of words that are in Sanskrit, or let's say Tibetan in our example, they do not have equivalency in Russian and Ukrainian, which is my mother tongue, or English. They simply don't. So we have to create new words, or sometimes just simply use the existing term in Sanskrit. Sanskrit is actually the mother tongue for all the tongues. And I've heard one teacher once say that all the teachers and all the masters, when they speak in Sanskrit, they speak to all religions. So it's a unifying language, and because it actually has a vibrational frequency that is primordial in a way. So that's why don't be hesitant to repeat words in Sanskrit or Tibetan. It's for good luck. So let's jump into these. So the very common one is bhavana in Sanskrit, or gompa in Tibet. And it is the most general word for meditation. And basically what it means, you repeat a mental picture and you will become it. It's a mental process that makes you turn into something. So it emphasizes the idea of bringing the object to the mind repeatedly in order to get used to it. Our mind is very pliable. Be very careful what you put in front of it. So the meditation objects are very important too. We'll talk about them later as we go into, and we will start talking about the breath next time. So that's the most basic meditation object. The other one is dhyana, or samten. Dhyana, when it moved to China, it became Zen. Then it moved to Japan, it became Zen. So this is the origin of some of the traditions that you might have heard from other cultures. An emphasis here is in the ability of the mind to hold attention on a single object. So it's single-pointed mind. It's very deep concentration. And it's a stable state of mind. Samapati, or nyamjuk. This word is related to equilibrium, means that in meditation, you will keep a balance between two extremes. And we'll talk later in this course about those two extremes as well. It's when the mind is too dull and you almost fall asleep. And the other one is mental agitation. So it's pure focus and the balanced mind. And this meditation is sometimes mistaken for nirvana. But there is some sort of a cessation, mind, thought cessation in this meditation. And the other cousin of it, very similar, it's samahita, or nyamchak in Tibetan. It is, it's very close to the samapati, and there is emphasis on balancing the two extreme. But here they typically talk about a very important concept that we discussed last time. It's the concept of emptiness. And in this meditation, you will get, in this definition, you will get maybe even brief, but some direct perception of emptiness here. Even for a brief period of time. And it's a state where the mind is almost shut down. Shamatha, I've heard shamatha quite a bit. Shine in Tibetan. There are great teachers and masters who teach this. And it is a very advanced form of meditation. And it's a peaceful mind. It's very calm. It's calm like a lake that you can see right through it. Um, and when it's so calm, you can see emptiness directly. So this shamatha term is always joined by the vipassana, not vipassana. Vipassana is the correct pronunciation. And it's a single pointed concentration that is characterized by physical and mental bliss, produced by one overcoming completely, when one is completely used to meditating. So it's very advanced form. It takes years to get there, and a lot of practice. And you'd probably do a couple of hours a day, 1 or 2 hours for sure, for extended period of time to get there. And then the last one, I think a lot of the people who are listening to me now have heard this term. It's samadhi, or tengen jin, when the mind is super blue, super sweet, and the mind almost melts into the object. And the object could be you could be meditating, let's say, on the Buddha, and you become the Buddha. So it's a high state of meditation. But just these 6 words, they just tell you how there is a slightly different flavor, and there are levels of complexity. And but aside all of that, what I want to impress on you is what really is the purpose of the meditation. Because in this world, there is a lot of stuff out there, and it's easy to lose the intention, and the intention is critical here. And the intention here to be challenged in meditation, we should be directly challenging our view of the world, the view that we're all born with, when we think that the world is coming onto us. Like I am here talking on your computer screen, coming from my own side. Or your boss, if you're at work and he's mean or she is mean, they are that from their own side. Rather, a projection of your own mental seeds. So, and it's a profound concept, and it takes time to get it, because we're all people, and we get caught in the world of today, and it's fast, and we forget, and we start fighting with the world out there, and start talking or fighting or changing somehow the world out there, which is like talking to the TV, talking to the TV screen, because the TV screen, it's just a medium on which you see a projection. But the projector, or not even the TV screen, but in the old days, you would go see these movies where there is a screen and there is a projector. And yelling at that screen is no point. The movie's coming from the projector, and the projector is you. And so when you think that the problems out there on the projector of your reality screen, they come from themselves, and you blame them, you lose control over your life. And when you realize that everything about your world, my world, comes from me, then I have some control over it and might not be in the present moment, but I still do have control over it. And the meditation helps us do it. It helps us create the mental seeds that change what we see on the screen of the reality. So, and this is really the purpose of the meditation. It's to make you happier, and not just to make you feel good in the moment, but to change your reality. Um, so, and it should challenge your belief in the world, that the world is coming this way towards you. So, an intention is everything. And you want to keep this intention. And if you go into any technique, because, semantics are confused, everything, is called meditation. If you go with the intention to actually reach stillness, to see the true nature of reality, then you're doing an authentic meditation. Because your mind becomes what you put in front of it. And the object then is extremely important. And we always start with the breath. And as I promised, we will be going into the breath in the next class. It does take a couple of first classes to iron out the mechanics, the techniques, the definitions. But I promise we will start meditating pretty soon. So, in the last class, we talked about emptiness and how reality comes from here, not from there. In this class, I want to talk about another concept, and this will set you up for success in meditation. And what sets you up for success in meditation is not the things that you do when you're already sitting in it. It's what you do before. And there are a couple of things that either are conducive to a good meditation or not. And one big one, a huge one, and I learned it and tested it on my own, it's actually how you treat others, how you the mind will become tranquil or not. It will be beautiful or not, depending on what that mind records throughout the day, how you respond to the world, how you treat others. And this is like basic morals, ethics, morality. And every religion in the world has some top 10. And it is not conducive to any specific sect or religion. Which is just a basic understanding that if you exaggerate or lie, or to a friend or coworker, or maybe you didn't pay your taxes this year, or any sort of unethical behavior, when you know that that unethical behavior is exactly what's going to cause your future, create your future, it inevitably will come back to you. Then you become more conscious. And throughout the day, we're not. I would love to teach a little bit about the top 10 principles and how what we do creates what we get. It's actually very scientific and logical, believe it or not. It will answer a lot of the questions. So if you have an interest in it, please ping me, send me a text message. But when we realize that through the laws of cause and effect, we will inevitably get an express result in the future, we start to be more aware, to be more conscious in our day-to-day life. And there are different practices how to do this, because it's easy to get lost. And I know if I yelled at my kids or my mother or my husband, whoever, if I was angry the day before, the next day when I sit down to meditate, I can guarantee you I can't get past 10, 15 minutes, because the mind will be agitated. It's very important to understand that those things that we do, say, or think, they will disturb your mind in meditation. They will consume a lot of energy. So it's important to be aware of that. And there is a deep wisdom in the Islamic tradition, when 6 times a day they roll the mat and they pray. So similarly, what Buddhists do, they keep a diary, an ethical diary, and every 2 hours you stop and you recall what you've done, and good and bad, because that enhances that imprint, or weakens the mental imprint. And that's a wonderful practice to keep yourself honest, because you're not doing any of this for anybody other than yourself. That becomes your reality. So you will have a good meditation and beautiful still lake in your mind if your reality, you interact with it also beautifully. The other thing is what you eat. So sugar, caffeine, they do agitate the mind. What is also very helpful, and it took me a long time to get to it, is yoga. Yoga was created to help meditate. It opens the hips. It balances the energies in the bodies. But this practice was created largely to help people meditate. So, asanas, it's basically as sitting. So it's the position, it's holding the position. And Buddha got enlightened Vajrasthana. So it's the position. The lotus position is very common position. We'll talk a little bit more about it in the next class. But yoga helps you get in the position, because the lotus position is probably the only one where you can sit for extended period of time. But you get to it gradually, so you don't damage your knees. Closing is very important. And lastly is the cushion. Pick a good cushion. Try a couple. The cushion helps you keep your bottom above your knees. So it has to be a little bit higher, and the knees have to be comfortable in its position. And lastly, it's the environment. Environment, and also the techniques and the posture. I'll talk about posture next time. We're almost at our half-hour mark, and I want to be respectful of your time. The environment, they used to say that the sound was the biggest enemy of meditation. I think this is now the biggest enemy of the meditation, the cell phone. But just having space, consistent time matters, and undisturbed for as long as you want to do it. Half an hour, 20 minutes, give yourself 10, 15 minutes a day, and add add to it over time. And that would be wonderful. And the posture has 7 positions, and we'll go into them at our next session. So hopefully we'll be able to meet next Wednesday and continue with this course. And thank you so very much for joining me today. I'll see you next Wednesday.